Rarely seen Gilligan's Island bloopers, you probably didn't notice. We have such lovely recollections of Gilligan's Island. The skipper's little buddy may have thwarted their attempts to flee the island, but we did receive extra episodes as a result of their tragedy. It only broadcast for 3 seasons, yet the 98 episodes transported all of its viewers on a tropical adventure. Let's go back in time to Gilligan's Island and discover some things you probably didn't know. History of Gilligan's Island. Gilligan's Island aired 98 episodes over 3 seasons. It aired on CBS in the late 1960s. Viewers liked the performance so much that they kept clamoring for more, so 3 movies were made. Did you know that the show was inspired by the question, "What would you take with you on a desert island?" Producer Sherwood Schwartz then adapted this concept into a comedy. We think it's safe to say it worked. The ensemble. Gilligan's Island has 7 notable characters that make the program considerably more intriguing. Although they were excellent in the program, they were ultimately typecast for the characters they played. In the end, performers trying to break into new parts failed to find work. Next, find out what happened to the program's actors and what happened to them after the show ended. Gilligan's Island's babes. Perhaps Gilligan's ultimate goal was to keep Ginger and Mary Ann to himself all along. Because of his lack of swagger, he was unlikely to be able to have such beautiful women in real life. The makers of the program felt it was every man's fantasy to be stranded on a remote island with 2 attractive ladies. As a result, you can't really blame him for attempting and failing. This thought may seem out of place now, but things were different back then. This program brought to you by... Most TV programs rely on sponsors to pay for their productions. Procter & Gamble and Philip Morris were the original sponsors of Gilligan's Island. Because they were financing the program, they could market whatever they wanted, from household cleaners to cigarettes. Product placement was used back then as a method of promoting their items. The smoke is also seen in one of the instances. Although there are currently far too many cigarette firms, there were fewer in the past, making it easier to promote on screen. The premiere episode. Gilligan's Island's first episode was really shot on a terrible day. It was shot on November 22, 1963, the day JFK was assassinated. Even though the staff was aware of it, they had to continue working. There were also some differences in the original pilot episode. There were just 4 cast members, for example, rather than 7. It also has a unique theme tune. John Williams, who eventually rose to renown for creating the Star Wars theme tune, wrote the original theme. The first Gilligan's Island. Gilligan's Island isn't real, but the island is. It's really closer than you think. The renowned show's opening sequence was really filmed at Coconut Isle in Kaneohe Bay on the main Hawaiian island. Mokuolo is another name for Coconut Island. Currently, the little island functions as a marine biology research center. However, just the pilot episode was shot here. The remaining episodes were shot at the CBS studio in California. It all began in a college classroom. The show was lively and well received by the crowd due to its assumptions. Surprisingly, the show's concept was inspired by a college classroom conversation at NYU. Sherwood Schwartz, the show's creator, visited there. His lecturer asked him in one of his classes, "If you were stranded on a desert island, what one item would you like to have?" He's always carried that question with him until he ultimately pitched it. As a result, Gilligan's Island was born. Are there 2 professors? You may recall the iconic figure, the Professor, who was performed by Russell Johnson. Although technically identified as Professor Roy Hinckley, he was often simply known as the Professor. This, however, was not always the case. The part was originally performed by John Gabriel in the pilot episode, but the writers opted to replace him since he seemed too young to possess all the degrees he was meant to hold. As a result, Russell Johnson was cast. The life of Mary Ann. Dawn Wells portrayed Mary Ann. She embodied the stereotype of the girl next door. Mary Ann was a rural girl who was well-liked by many people. In reality, she got several fan letters with marriage offers. Dawn Wells was originally from Reno, Nevada. Acting, believe it or not, was not her first choice. In college, she majored in chemistry. She definitely has both intelligence and beauty, since she was elected Miss Nevada in 1960 before beginning her acting career. The beginning. On November 22, 1963, the pilot episode finale was filmed in Hawaii. Unfortunately, this was also the day President John F. Kennedy was slain and Lyndon B. Johnson was sworn in as his successor. On that day, military sites were also shuttered to grieve the unfortunate tragedy. If you look closely at the backdrop of the opening, you can see flags flying from the ships behind the SS Minnow. Because of what transpired, the flags were flown at half-mast. They continued this way throughout the show's debut. The show's been canceled. The wife of CBS boss William S. Paley evidently didn't approve of what Ginger, Marianne, and the rest of the ensemble were up to. That's why, tragically, the program was quickly discontinued in order for CBS to resume showing Gunsmoke, which was allegedly the wife's favorite show. Ironically, the show was unexpectedly terminated just as the cast was celebrating a third season renewal. Everyone was taken aback when they heard the news. Fortunately for the Paleys, Gunsmoke was a huge success. Finale. What began as a 3-hour tour developed into a 3-year journey. However, with the last episode, it seemed like the tour was planned to go on indefinitely. They didn't write a proper finale since they didn't realize the show was going to be canceled. The last episode of the program, Gilligan the Goddess, was broadcast on April 17, 1967. Like all previous episodes, it concluded with the castaways still stranded on the island. Isn't it sad? Dawn Wells has a debt. Dawn Wells, who portrayed Marianne, was buried in debt in 2018. She launched a GoFundMe campaign to try to pay it off. She stated that her debt had risen to $200,000 as a result of investment losses and medical expenses. Wells urged her supporters to pitch in and help her gather the funds, hoping that it would be enough for her to move into a good assisted living facility. Of course, numerous supporters were more than willing to pitch in and help. A show for everyone. Gilligan's Island was a program for the people of all ages. If you were a youngster when this program was on, you undoubtedly remember watching it when you were sick or had to stay home from school. Other programs you may recall are Gomer Pyle and Fantasy Island. Cast members of Gilligan's Island from left, Bob Denver and Alan Hale. Keep watching to find out what your favorite characters were up to the whole time. You'll be shocked to hear that there's much more to Gilligan's Island than meets the eye. The last years of Natalie Schafer. Natalie Schafer, who played Lovey Howell in the program, was a true billionaire. She made several wise investments that paid her handsomely. She survived until the age of 90 before succumbing to liver cancer. During her final years on the show, she lived with co-star Dawn Wells, who managed to maintain a connection with her co-stars. Wells, in reality, became Schafer's caregiver when she was battling cancer. Schafer reportedly bequeathed a sizable portion of her assets to Wells when she died. Russell Johnson's story. Before he became the professor, Russell Johnson was a lieutenant bombardier in the United States Navy Army troops. During the Second World War, he received many decorations, including the Purple Heart. He was released as a lieutenant in 1945 and subsequently joined the reserves. Finally, he used the GI Bill to finance acting classes. Unfortunately, he was typecast because of his performance on Gilligan's Island. He accepted this and went on to have a great TV acting career. Schwartz Sherwood. So, who is the brain behind this legendary show? You have the brilliant television producer Sherwood Schwartz to thank for it. He traveled to Southern California first to seek a master's degree in biology. He started making jokes for Bob Hope as a way to get money. He enjoyed the job and Hope appreciated the effort Schwartz was making. As a result, Hope gave him a place on his writing team. American television has two excellent legendary series thanks to Schwartz: Gilligan's Island and The Brady Bunch. The voice of the announcer. Have you ever wondered who was behind the announcer's voice? Charles Maxwell, an actor and producer, provides the voice. The announcer on the radio was one of the castaways' favorite methods of staying in contact with the outside world. Maxwell appeared often as a guest on episodes such as Bonanza, Gunsmoke, and The Rifleman. He even appeared in a Star Trek episode. Most of his jobs were brief, but his longest was as radio announcer on Gilligan's Island, even though he wasn't recognized for it. Gilligan's Island, The New Adventures of Gilligan. A new spin-off series was created as a result of the show's popularity. Filmation created the animated series, The New Adventures of Gilligan. From 1974 through 1977, it appeared on ABC on Saturday mornings. Except for Dawn Wells, who was traveling for a play, and Tina Louise, who didn't want to be linked with her part anymore, all the original cast members were requested to return to voice the show's characters. Gilligan had a sidekick in the cartoon, and each episode ended with a lesson. Gilligan's Island. Gilligan's Planet was the follow-up to The New Adventures of Gilligan. Filmation also produced it, and it aired on Saturday morning. Dawn Wells provided the voices for Marianne and Ginger. In this animated program, our favorite castaways built a spacecraft and sent it into space, only to get stuck on a distant world. From 1982 to 1983, the program aired on CBS. Dusty's Path. Sherwood Schwartz created another spin-off episode of the series called Dusty's Trail. It aired from 1973 to 1974, and it was about a 19th century wagon train heading to California. After one of the wagons became separated from the train, the coachman and 5 passengers had to make their way back. Although Dusty's Trail was not explicitly modeled on Gilligan's Island, the characters were all roughly based on the original show's 7 castaways. With the exception of a wagon master, a wagon train scout, an affluent couple, a science professor, a school teacher, and a saloon lady. Citizens concerned. Following the broadcast of Gilligan's Island, the U.S. Coast Guard received hundreds of telegrams from worried residents claiming that Americans were trapped on an island in the Pacific Ocean. The Coast Guard was compelled to rescue the trapped civilians as a result of these telegrams. The Coast Guard, of course, did nothing except relay these concerns to producer Sherwood Schwartz. Schwartz was startled that some viewers thought the castaways were genuinely trapped in real life. Fans of Gilligan's Island. Although Gilligan's Island did not top the ratings on CBS, it did have a large following. The show drew a large number of people from all walks of life. Russell Johnson also spoke at a biochemical conference in San Francisco as a result of this performance. Even Bob Denver had a nice, if strange, interaction with fans. When he was with his wife at a restaurant, the band shifted from classical music to the Gilligan's Island theme tune. The Captain's Broken Arm. We're not sure how the skipper managed to pull this off, but it undoubtedly shows how committed he is to his work. Alan Hale inadvertently injured his arm when he fell out of a coconut tree on set one day. He didn't tell the film team about it, however, since he didn't want to disturb the shoot. With his damaged arm, he had to raise Gilligan and hefty coconuts during one of the sequences. "How did you manage to heave coconuts and lift Bob Denver with a broken arm?" Schwartz was questioned, to which he answered, "It wasn't easy." Name of the skipper. Did you know Skipper's given name was not Skipper? That was only a prank. His true name was Jonah Grumby, although he only stated it once in the pilot episode. Because the skipper had a strong military heritage, the flags were presumably flying at half-mast. The skipper was said to have served in both John F. Kennedy's and McHale's Navy. Although we're curious if he was so highly trained in the military, how come it appeared so difficult to repair the hole in the bottom of the boat? The Wellington family. The folk group, the Wellingtons, provided the show's theme tune, in case you were wondering. They were known as the Mosquitoes on the program. They also have another well-known song, The Ballad of Davy Crockett. They also appeared on the program Shindig. Before they were known as the Wellingtons, they were known as the Lincolns, and they were contracted by Walt Disney to record a theme song for the Wonderful World of Color. Their most notable effort was the theme tune they created for Davy Crockett. They toured with groups such as the Supremes and Stevie Wonder during their career. Gilligan's Island Tribute. Sherwood Schwartz, A Loving Tribute, was the title of one Roseanne episode. It was a dream scenario in which the major characters from Gilligan's Island appeared. Dan played the skipper, Jackie played Gilligan, and Roseanne played Ginger. Roseanne's mother and Leon then took on the roles of Thurston Howell and Lovey. Darlene, who played Marianne, informs Jackie/Gilligan, "Aunt Jackie, you need to shave." It was one of the show's best moments. who might have played Marianne. Other actresses auditioned for the part of Marianne throughout the show's casting process. Raquel Welch, an actress, was one of them. Despite being placed third on Playboy's list of the 100 sexiest stars of the 20th century, Welch didn't suit the girl next door aesthetic that the writers were striving for. It would have been quite different if Welch had played Marianne or Ginger. Even though she didn't get the role, everything worked out well for her. You ever seen the film 1 Million Years BC? Natalie Schaefer's Unknown. Schaefer began her career in 1927, although she only played supporting roles. In 1941, she relocated to Los Angeles to pursue a career in cinema. On the program, she is most known for her portrayal of the millionaire's wife, Eunice Lovey Wentworth Howell. It was said that she accepted the part because the pilot would be shot in Hawaii, which she perceived as a free vacation. What she didn't realize was that the program would become renowned and she'd return to reprise her part in many spin-offs.